The sun was a fiery orb melting into the horizon, casting a warm orange glow over the bustling port of Port Royal. Elias, with a face weathered by salt and sun, stepped off his ship, the Siren's Call. At 28, he was not the typical swaggering pirate captain. His eyes held a quiet intelligence and a deep-seated weariness that spoke of years spent not just raiding, but surviving. He carried the weight of his crew's well-being on his shoulders, a responsibility that had grown heavier since his last skirmish with the British Royal Navy. The hold of his ship was almost empty, and his crew was restless, their provisions running dangerously low. His goal was simple: resupply. He walked through the narrow, crowded streets, the air thick with the smell of brine, sweat, and spices. The sounds of raucous laughter from taverns mingled with the distant calls of gulls. Elias spotted the familiar sign of the Salty Dog, a tavern known for its shady deals and even shadier clientele. He pushed open the heavy wooden door, his gaze sweeping the room. He needed rum, barrels of it, not just for his crew's spirits, but for its value as trade. A plump, greasy merchant named Bartholomew caught his eye. Bartholomew was a man whose smile never reached his eyes, a man who profited from the desperation of others. Elias approached him, a glint of determination in his tired eyes. "Bartholomew, I need rum. 10 barrels, high quality. Name your price," Elias said, his voice low and firm. Bartholomew's grin widened. "Captain Elias, a pleasure as always. The finest spirits from the islands straight from my storerooms. 40 gold coins a barrel. A steal, eh?" Elias's jaw tightened. 40 gold coins was an exorbitant price, nearly all he had left. But his crew was depending on him, their thirst and hunger a tangible pressure. He nodded slowly, his mind calculating the risk. "Done. But I need them delivered to my ship by nightfall, and I want to see the barrels myself." Bartholomew, too eager, agreed without a second thought. As Elias examined the sealed barrels, a strange scent, metallic and sharp, prickled his nose. He dismissed it as a residual smell from the storeroom, his mind focused on the transaction. He handed over the pouch of 400 gold coins, the weight of the loss a bitter taste in his mouth. Returning to the Siren's Call, Elias felt a heavy sense of unease. His first mate, a gruff but loyal man named Finn, met him at the gangplank. "Captain, you look troubled. Did the deal go sour?" "No, Finn. I secured the rum, but the price, it was a robbery. We're nearly broke. We need to find a way to make up for this loss quickly." As night fell, Bartholomew's men arrived with the barrels. The air was cool now, a light breeze rustling the sails. Elias and Finn supervised the loading, the heavy thud of wood on wood echoing in the quiet port. As the last barrel was secured in the hold, Elias noticed a small, nearly imperceptible glint on its side. He ran his hand over the wood, feeling a tiny, almost invisible fissure. He knelt, his instinct screaming that something was wrong. He grabbed a chisel and a small hammer, and with a careful, precise tap, he pried open the seal. The smell that wafted out was not of aged rum, but of acrid smoke and gunpowder. His heart pounded in his chest. He reached in, his fingers closing around a handful of fine, dark powder. Gunpowder. The barrels were a trap, a cheap, cruel trick meant to send his ship and his crew to the bottom of the sea. Rage, cold and sharp, flooded through him. Bartholomew hadn't just overcharged him. He had intended to destroy him. Elias stood up, the anger a fiery coil in his stomach. "Finn! Unload the barrels, all of them, and get the men ready. We're going back to Bartholomew's. He's not getting away with this." The night was now a canvas of shadows and threats. Elias's crew, their weariness replaced by a shared fury, armed themselves. The city lights of Port Royal seemed to mock them, their warm glow hiding the treachery beneath. They moved as a single unit, their steps silent, their purpose grim. The port, a place of supposed commerce, had become a battlefield, and Elias was ready to fight for his life, his crew, and his honor. The streets of Port Royal were alive with the nocturnal rhythm of the port. The sounds of laughter and music from the taverns felt distant and alien to Elias and his crew. They moved through the labyrinthine alleys, a silent procession of vengeance. Elias's mind was a whirlwind of rage and desperation. He had to reclaim his money, but more importantly, he had to make Bartholomew pay for his betrayal. A single misstep could mean a firefight in the streets, and a firefight would bring the Royal Navy down on them. They needed to be quick and surgical. They found Bartholomew's storeroom, a large, decrepit warehouse near the docks. A single guard stood watch, a bored, half-asleep figure. Finn, with the silent grace of a seasoned thief, crept up behind him, and a swift blow rendered the man unconscious. Elias, with a crowbar, broke the lock. Inside, a staggering sight met their eyes. Barrels upon barrels of legitimate rum, stacked high, their labels gleaming in the moonlight filtering through the dusty windows. Bartholomew had not just sold him gunpowder, he had kept the real rum for a more profitable deal. The betrayal was a calculated act of greed and cruelty. Elias was about to order his crew to begin loading the barrels when a sharp sound made them freeze. The shuffling of feet, the low murmur of voices. They were not alone. A woman's voice cut through the silence. "Bartholomew, you miserable toad! Where is the rest of my shipment?" A figure stepped from the shadows, her form silhouetted against the moonlight. She was tall, with a confident posture and a blade sheathing at her hip. Her hair was a wild cascade of dark curls, and her eyes, when she turned to face Elias, were a startlingly intense shade of green. She was not a merchant. She was a pirate, and a captain at that, judging by the authority in her voice. "Who are you?" Elias demanded, his hand on the hilt of his cutlass. She smirked, a flash of teeth in the dim light. "Captain Isabella de la Cruz, and these are my men. We had a deal with Bartholomew for this rum. He's been putting us off for weeks." "You must be the fool who paid him with a bag of air." Elias felt a pang of frustration. This was not the time for a territorial dispute. "He sold me barrels of gunpowder, not rum. He took my gold and intended to sink my ship. I'm here for my money and the real cargo." Isabella's smirk vanished, replaced by a look of cold calculation. "Gunpowder, you say? The slimy bastard. He did the same to me last year with a shipment of grain. I lost a good man because of his little games." She turned to her crew. "He's still at his tavern. Let's pay him a visit." Elias held up a hand. "Wait, you and I have a common enemy. Let's form a temporary alliance. We get the gold back, we take the rum, and we split the profits. It's too risky to go alone." Isabella looked at him, her green eyes sizing him up. She saw the honesty in his weary gaze, the genuine fury that simmered beneath his calm exterior. She saw a man who had been wronged, not a common thief. A slow, thoughtful smile spread across her face, an alliance of revenge. "I like the sound of that, Elias, but first let's get this rum to our ships." Working together, the two crews loaded the barrels onto their separate longboats, moving with a surprising efficiency. The shared purpose created an unspoken camaraderie. As they worked, Elias learned that Isabella was known for her cunning and her sharp mind, a captain who relied on strategy more than brute force. She, in turn, saw Elias's quiet leadership and the unwavering loyalty of his crew. By the time the last barrel was loaded, a silent understanding had formed between them. They were two captains, two forces in a world of treachery, who had found a fleeting moment of unity. The night air was cool, and the promise of vengeance hung in the air, a shared mission that bound them together. The plan was simple, but required perfect timing. They would use the gunpowder barrels Bartholomew had given Elias as a bargaining chip. Isabella, with her flair for the dramatic, would go in first, creating a distraction, while Elias and Finn snuck in through the back. The Salty Dog was a den of debauchery and greed, filled with the usual rabble of sailors, merchants, and lowlifes. Bartholomew sat at his usual table, his face slick with sweat, his eyes darting nervously. Isabella sauntered in, her presence a storm in the calm of the tavern. The room fell silent as all eyes turned to her. "Bartholomew," she announced, her voice ringing with feigned indignation. "You lied to me. The shipment was a mess. I want my money back now." Bartholomew, flustered, stammered, "What? What are you talking about, Captain? You got your goods as promised." "My goods? You think I don't know a fake when I see one? Now pay up, or I'll show everyone in this place what a liar and a cheat you are," she threatened, her hand resting provocatively on her cutlass. As the commotion drew everyone's attention, Elias and Finn slipped into the back of the tavern. The air was heavy with the smell of stale beer and desperation. They found Bartholomew's private office, a small, dusty room filled with ledgers and a heavy, iron-bound chest. Elias's heart pounded against his ribs. This was it, the chance to reclaim his crew's future. He worked on the lock, his hands steady despite the rising tension. The clicking sound of the tumblers was a symphony to his ears. The lid creaked open, revealing a hoard of gold and silver coins, piles of jewels, and a small, leather-bound book. Elias grabbed the gold, filling his pockets and a small sack he carried. The weight of it was a relief, a balm to the wound of betrayal. Just as he was about to close the chest, he heard a shout from the main room. A drunken sailor had recognized Elias and called out his name. The distraction had failed. Bartholomew's eyes widened in realization. He pushed past Isabella and ran toward his office, his face a mask of fury. Elias and Finn were trapped. You're the one I sold the gunpowder to," Bartholomew shrieked, his voice filled with venom. "You'll pay for this! Guards! Guards!" A few of Bartholomew's brutish-looking men lumbered toward Elias, their eyes glinting with malice. Just then, Isabella and her crew appeared, blocking their path. A tense standoff ensued. "Back off," Isabella said, her voice a low growl. "This is our business." The tavern erupted into chaos. A full-blown brawl broke out, with Elias and Finn fighting their way out of the back, and Isabella and her crew holding off Bartholomew's men in the front. Elias fought with a quiet fury, his movements precise and deadly. He saw Isabella, a whirlwind of motion, her cutlass a silver blur, her green eyes alight with a dangerous fire. Amidst the chaos, a lantern was knocked over, its oil spilling onto the floor and catching fire. Panic spread through the tavern. The fire department would be arriving soon, along with the Royal Navy. They had to leave, and they had to leave now. Elias and Finn met Isabella near the burning doorway. "We need to go now, before the Royal Navy shows up," Elias yelled over the roar of the fire. Isabella nodded, her gaze fixed on the burning building, then on him. "You did it, Elias. We both did." They ran through the burning streets, the sounds of shouting and alarm bells filling the night. They reached the docks, their two ships, the Siren's Call and the Sea Serpent, waiting like loyal steeds. Bartholomew, his face streaked with soot and tears of rage, appeared on the docks, shouting a desperate curse at them. Elias looked at the man, the very embodiment of the kind of treachery he had fought against his whole life. He felt no triumph, only a deep sense of relief. He had his money back, his crew was safe, and he had learned a valuable lesson about who to trust. As they set sail, the morning sun broke over the horizon, painting the sky in a palette of orange and gold. Isabella, from the deck of her ship, raised her hand in a silent salute. Elias returned the gesture, a small, grateful smile on his face. He had faced a betrayer, but he had found something unexpected in the fire. A partner, an ally in a world of enemies. Their paths might diverge now, but the bond forged in the crucible of that night would not be forgotten. The two ships sailed away, their flags snapping in the wind, a symbol of two captains who chose to trust each other over the treacherous promises of a dishonest world. Their sails caught the wind, and they disappeared into the vast, endless blue, their separate journeys now a shared story of rescue, defiance, and a fleeting alliance. Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed this journey into the world of pirates, where trust is rare and a good crew is everything. If you loved this story, please show your support by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. We have more tales of the high seas coming your way. Thank you for watching.